اللهم صل على سيدنا ومولانا محمد صاحب التاج والمعراج والبراق والعلم دافع البلاء والوباء والقحط والمرض والألم اسمه مكتوب مرفوع مشفوع منقوش في اللوح والقلم سيد العرب والعجم اسمه مقدس معطر مطهر منور في البيت والحرم شمس الضحى بدر الدجى صدر العلا نور الهدى كهف الورى مصباح الظلم جميل الشيم شفيع الأمم صاحب الجود والكرم والله عاصمه وجبريل خادمه والبراك مركبه والمعراج سفره وفوق سدرة المنتهى مقامه وقاب قوسين مطلوبه والمطلوب مقصوده والمقصود موجود سيد المرسلين خاتم النبيين شفيع المذنبين أنيس الغريبين رحمة للعالمين راحة العاشقين مراد المشتاقين شمس العارفين سراج السالكين مصباح المقربين محب الفقراء سيد الثقلين نبي الحرمين إمام القبلتين وسيلتنا في الدارين صاحب قاب قوسين محبوب رب المشرقين ورب المغربين جد الحسن والحسين مولانا ومولى الثقلين سيدنا أبي القاسم محمد بن عبد الله نور من نور الله يا أيها المشتاقون بنور جماله بلغ العلا بكماله كشف الدجى بجماله حصنت جميع خصاله صلوا عليه وآله وأصحابه وسلموا تسليما
बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाज़रीन, प्रोग्राम सुबह नूर के साथ आपका मेज़बान नज़ीर अहमद गाज़ी हाजिर है। नाज़रीन इकराम, हज़रत अबू अनीस मोहम्मद बरकत अली साहब रहमहुल्लाह की मशहूर तालीफ़ अस्माउन नबील करीम सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम से एक इसमें मुबारक पढ़ने की सआदत हासिल कर रहा हूँ। सैयदुना अल मुबश्शिरु सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, हमारे सरदार खुशखबरी सुनाने वाले, दुरूद व सलाम भेजे अल्लाह आप सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, आपकी आले पाक और आपके सहाबा किराम पर। हज़रत अब्दुल्ला बिन अब्बास रज़ी अल्लाह ताला अन्हु बयान फरमाते हैं कि अहले मक्का में से कुछ लोग कसरत से शराब नोशी और दीगर कबीरा गुनाहों में मुलव्वस थे। वो रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम की खिदमत अक़दस में हाज़िर हुए और कहने लगे, या रसूलल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, आप हमें जिस दीन की दावत देते हैं वो बेहतरीन दीन है, लेकिन क्या इस्लाम कबूल करने से हमारे साबिक़ा गुनाहों का कफ़ारा हो जाएगा? इस मौका पर यह आयत नाजिल हुई जिसका मफ़हूम यह है, ए मेरे प्यारे हबीब सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम, आप फरमा दीजिए, ए मेरे बंदो, जिन्होंने अपनी जानों पर ज़्यादती की है تم اللہ کی رحمت سے مایوس نہ ہونا، بے شک اللہ سارے گناہ معاف فرما دیتا ہے، وہ یقیناً بڑا بخشنے والا اور بہت رحم فرمانے والا ہے۔ اسی طرح ایک اور روایت میں ہے کہ حضرت عمر بن عاص رضی اللہ تعالیٰ عنہ بیان فرماتے ہیں کہ حضور نبی کریم صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم نے مجھے مخاطب فرما کر ارشاد فرمایا، اے عمر، کیا تم اس بات کو نہیں جانتے کہ جو شخص اسلام قبول کرتا ہے تو اس کے پچھلے تمام گناہ معاف کر دیے جاتے ہیں۔ ناظرین کرام، آج ہماری خوش بختی ہے اور میں سمجھتا ہوں ہمارے ناظرین کے لیے بھی بہت بڑی خوش بختی کا دن ہے۔ آج ہمارے ساتھ ایک ایسی شخصیت یہاں پہ تشریف فرما ہے جن کا تعارف کراتے ہوئے قلب و ذہن پہ ایک عجیب کیفیت طاری ہو جاتی ہے۔ ناظرین کرام، آج میرے جو مہمان ہیں ان کا تعارف یہ ہے کہ ڈاکٹر عمر فاروق عبداللہ، یہ امریکن نیشنل ہیں۔ ان کا پہلا نام جو تھا اسلام قبول کرنے سے وہ تھا وائمن لینڈ گریف، ان کا نام تھا۔ اور ناظرین کرام، یہ نبراسکا اسٹیٹ ہے ایک امریکہ کی، وہاں ان کی پیدائش ہوئی اور ان کا عیسائی گھرانے سے تعلق تھا۔ ناظرین کرام، اس کے بعد انہوں نے جو تعلیم جن یونیورسٹیوں میں حاصل کی وہ یونیورسٹی آف میزوری میں پہلے انہوں نے تعلیم حاصل کی، وہاں پہ ہسٹری کے طالب علم تھے۔ اس کے بعد یونیورسٹی آف کارنیل میں انہوں نے داخلہ لیا اور وہاں پہ انہوں نے لٹریچر اور رینائسنس اور خاص طور پر شیکسپیئر کی جو سارے لٹریچر تھا اس کی انہوں نے تعلیم حاصل کی۔ اس کے بعد پھر یہ مختلف اور یونیورسٹیوں میں بھی انہوں نے شکاگو یونیورسٹی سے انہوں نے پھر تعلیم حاصل کی اور ناظرین کرام پھر انہوں نے پی ایچ ڈی وہیں سے شکاگو یونیورسٹی سے کی۔ اللہ تعالیٰ کے ان پہ خاص کرم ہوا کہ انہوں نے 1970 میں سید عالمین صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے دامن رحمت سے وابستہ ہو گئے، مسلمان ہو گئے۔ حضور صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کے غلاموں کی فہرست میں ایک نام جو تھا وہ جناب ڈاکٹر عمر فاروق عبداللہ کا بھی آ گیا۔ ناظرین کرام، انہوں نے بہت مختلف یونیورسٹیوں میں جا کر بڑی تعلیمی خدمات سر انجام دیں۔ انہوں نے جا کے ونڈسر یونیورسٹی میں پڑھایا، ٹیمپل یونیورسٹی میں پڑھایا، مشیگن یونیورسٹی اور کنگ عبدالعزیز یونیورسٹی جدہ میں بھی انہوں نے پڑھایا۔ اور آج کل پھر یہ 2000 میں چلے گئے تھے واپس امریکہ میں۔ 1970 میں انہوں نے اسلام قبول کیا تھا اور 90 فاؤنڈیشن شکاگو کے ساتھ انہوں نے پھر کام شروع کیا 2000 میں، اور اس کے بعد اب یہ مختلف جگہوں پہ دین اسلام کی تعلیم جو ہے اور دین اسلام کی اشاعت میں مصروف ہیں۔ 6 کتابیں انہوں نے لکھی ہیں بہت اہم اسلامک ٹاپکس پہ، اور ان کی جو مشہور کتاب ہے بہت زیادہ پاپولر ہوئی وہ ہے اسلام اینڈ دی کلچرل امپیریٹو۔ ناظرین کرام، دین اسلام دین رحمت ہے، دین اسلام دین محبت ہے، دین اسلام دین امن ہے، دین اسلام دین فطرت ہے۔ ناظرین کرام، جب مولانا شاہ عبدالعلیم صدیقی میرٹھی رحمۃ اللہ علیہ جو دنیا بھر میں تبلیغ اسلام کرتے تھے، شاہ احمد نورانی رحمۃ اللہ علیہ کے والد، تو ان کی برنرڈ شاہ سے ملاقات ہوئی تھی۔ اور جب برنرڈ شاہ جو تھا ان کا پہلے بھی مطالعہ تھا اسلام کا، جب ان سے تفصیل سے گفتگو وہ چھپ چکی ہے، شیوین تھیولوجی کے نام سے وہ کتاب بھی چھپ چکی ہے، تو برنرڈ شاہ نے کہا تھا Islam in general and England in particular will accept Islam in next half a century or a religion to Islam۔ ناظرین کرام، دین اسلام کی جو خوشبو ہے اللہ کے فضل و کرم سے یہ جس سعید روح تک پہنچ جاتی ہے، سعید فطرتیں اور سعید روحیں کھنچی اس کی طرف چلی آتی ہیں، جیسے مقناطیس کی طرف لوہا کھنچا چلا آتا ہے، یہی بالکل ان کی کیفیت ہوتی ہے، میگنیٹک اسپرچل فورس ہوتی ہے۔ اور ناظرین کرام، آج جو شخصیت ہمارے ساتھ ہیں یہ قادری سلسلے میں انہوں نے بیعت کی، ایک مکمل صوفی، ایک بہت بڑے اسکالر، اور آپ ان کا چہرہ دیکھیں گے اللہ تعالیٰ کے فضل و کرم سے مجھے تو انوار نکلتے ہوئے ان کے چہرے سے جو ہے وہ نظر آتے ہیں۔ آج کا ہمارا جو ٹاپک ان سے ہم ڈسکس کریں گے وہ تصوف دور حاضر کی ضرورت۔ ویلکم ڈاکٹر عمر فاروق۔
Thank you very much.
May I know when you embrace Islam and how you embrace Islam? What was the moving moment? Is it some personality? Is it some book? what happened?
Let me say, first of all, Justice Nazir, that I'm very happy to be back here on the program with you.
Thank you very much.
And I'm honored that you would have me come back. God blessed me with this religion in January of 1970.
Right.
At that time, as you indicated, I was a student at Cornell University. I was studying English literature. One of the things that I had to study there was also African American literature.
Right.
And that was what brought me into Islam.
Right.
Because among the books that I read in African American literature was the autobiography of Malcolm X.
Oh, right.
Which I began to read on January the 2nd, 1970.
Leader of the black Muslims.
He was an
Great.
African American Muslim. He was in the beginning a follower of Elijah Muhammad, but the last year of his life he was a Sunni Muslim.
He changed.
He changed.
He became the right Muslim.
Malcolm was an amazing person. Wherever he found the truth, he followed it. So that book...
He was martyred?
And he was martyred in 1965. So
Right.
I did not have the honor to know Malcolm. I've had the honor to meet much of his family after that.
Right.
But his autobiography affected me deeply. I began reading it. I couldn't put it down. By morning of January the 3rd.
I have gone through his autobiographies, biographies. I have seen his movie, and I am fond of him.
He was a great man.
Yeah,
truly a great man. A man who stood in the face of untruth and oppression. And he did it courageously.
Right.
And he's a credit to the African American people and to all of us as Americans.
Right. It was his autobiography which brought the moment of change in your personality.
It's absolutely that. I had come to the conclusion years before that God was one.
Alhamdulillah.
And I had rejected the Trinity from the time I was 12 years old.
Right.
But
amazing.
And I knew that Islam was great. I knew about its civilization. I even wrote papers on that. But the autobiography of Malcolm X made Islam relevant to me.
Right.
It made it a necessary personal choice. And so this was the great moment of transformation. And the changes that came about from becoming a Muslim were manifest.
Doctor, may I know, we think that tasawwuf is the essence of Islam. Is it true? What is tasawwuf, please?
So, Islam, as our Prophet was taught by the angel Gabriel, and as he knew, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is Islam, which is outward obedience. It is Iman, which is inward knowledge of God. And it is Ihsan,
right,
which is moral and spiritual perfection.
Right.
And each of these three has a science. So the science of Islam is fiqh.
Right.
And the science of Iman is Aqidah. And the science of Ihsan is what we call tasawwuf,
right,
historically. And all these three have to go together. But it's clear from the hadith of Jibreel, alayhi salam, that Ihsan is the culmination of the two. And the human face is very beautiful. There is nothing in creation more beautiful than the human face, especially the face of the beloved messengers, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or of Yusuf, or of the prophets and the messengers. But the human face is a whole. And Islam is also a whole. And if you don't have the whole, it's not pretty. The most beautiful person, if you take off their nose, you won't want to look at them anymore.
Right.
Or if you remove an ear, or other parts of the face, you have to have the whole face.
Right.
And therefore, our deen, it has to have all of its parts.
Right.
So the Sharia is absolutely necessary.
Right.
And there can be no tasawwuf without Sharia.
Right.
And you have to have aqeedah, which is correct. But also you have to have the science of ihsan.
Right.
That how do we purify ourselves?
Right.
How do we come to self-consciousness? How do we become sincere in what we do? And how do we worship God as if we could see
If I
Him?
say, Doctor, that the love of Islam and the essence of Islam, if permeates your mind, your heart, your body and your qalb, your heart, both are in the same wave, on the same wavelength and in the same line. Is it the Subh?
So again, it's true that you have to have the whole.
Right.
So the body and the physical aspects of the human beings, even how we clean ourselves, even how we eat and what we eat, all of these things are absolutely important to the whole picture.
Right. Doctor, I would like to know from your eminence that nowadays the whole world is facing a big menace, which is extremism. How we can deal with it, and the Tasawwuf can solve this problem?
The Quran tells us very clearly that God made us ummatan wasata, that God made us a middle nation, which also in Arabic means the best.
The best. Kuntum khayra ummatin.
And he
you
also
are the
says,
best people.
Kuntum khayra ummatin ukhrijat linnas, that you are the best community brought forth for humankind.
Subhanallah.
And Imam al-Bukhari, when he gives us his commentary on that, in the Sahih, he says, Khayrun nasi linnas, which I would translate as, you must be the best of all people to all people.
Khayrun nasi man yanfa'un nas.
And the best of people are those who benefit all people.
Right.
This religion is a religion of service and love. And it's a mercy to all the worlds, as the Prophet was a mercy, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But it's a middle religion, deenun wasat. In Arabic, that means it's the best. But in Arabic, it also means it's balanced.
Right.
And it's in the middle. It doesn't go to one extreme or the other.
Right.
So it doesn't go to an extreme of rigidity or of violence or of blindness. And also it doesn't go to an extreme of being overly lax and unconcerned about principle and morality. The true Islam's got to be in the middle. And historically, even though we have times in history when we go to one extreme or another, usually like the gyroscope, that no matter how you turn it, it will come back upright. Islam has been like a gyroscope, so it will find itself back to the middle way. And this is absolutely necessary. Only then can you be shuhada ala nas. Only then can we be witnesses over mankind. Interestingly, in the old tafsir of the Quran, the Salaf would say, among their opinions on your being witnesses over mankind, that you are protectors of mankind.
Right.
Just as the Quran is muhaymin, it is a protector of all revelation that went before, because it gives us the true story and the essence of all revelation that went before.
May I know that it's a religion of which was given by Rahmatullah Alameen sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do you feel, what are the reasons? Because you are living in America and you must be studying. What are the reasons that the people have become so extremist? I don't say in a Muslim world only, but also in the whole world.
That's a very good point, because religious extremism is not just our problem. It is the problem of Christians in my country, not all of them, but some of them.
Some of them.
And of Jews, in some cases, of Buddhists. Look at what's happening in Burma.
Rohingya.
Look at what's happening in Sri Lanka, the Rohingya in Burma. Hindus, Hindus should be very peaceful people, but Hindu nationalists are not.
But what is happening in Kashmir?
And look at what's happening in Kashmir and what's happening in India in general,
Right.
which is not good for Muslims.
Right.
So religious extremism is a problem that all communities face,
Yeah.
as extremism is as well, because we have secular extremists
Right.
who are nationalists or who are ideologues of one matter or another. I think, though, that when we look at
The
ourselves,
causes are the reasons.
I think that the first cause that we have to look at is oppression.
Right.
And we have to understand that all of these problems began with Palestine.
Right.
And they all go back to Palestine.
Yeah, you are perfectly right. Perfectly
And
right.
then in the wake of Palestine, you have these other disasters that have happened. Here in your blessed country of Pakistan, in Afghanistan that was torn apart for decades, in Iraq,
Iraq.
in the Yemen, and elsewhere. We could go on and on.
Syria.
In Syria.
Libya, everywhere.
Yes, and so we cannot talk about extremism in any meaningful way if we don't talk about global oppression, and especially foreign policies
Right.
of nations like my own, that this causes trouble. And I think the next thing that we have to look at is the social reality of many of our Muslims. Many of our Muslims today.
Would you agree? Because I remember one of the scholars after the Second World War, he went to UK and America and delivered lectures. I am not remembering his name just for a moment. He said that unless we open the gates of our university to Maulana Room, Sheikh Sadi and other Sufis, we cannot bring peace. The humanity has totally vanished, I must say. This is what he said.
I don't know who that person was, but the people you mentioned, Rumi, Sa'di, Hafiz, Maulana Muhammad Iqbal in your own great country, and many others, these people are luminaries. These people speak to all the world, and they speak with the language of Islam. The worldview that they represent may be foreign to many Muslims today, but it wasn't for over 1,000 years. And they give us meaning, and they give us direction. And they are also an important part of that beautiful face of Islam that's got to have eyes to see, it's got to have a nose to smell, it's got to have lips. If the teeth are exposed because there are no lips, we're ugly. So this is very, very important. In the United States today, the best seller in poetry is Jalaluddin Rumi.
Oh, is it
And
so?
people are fascinated with him. So we have a great treasure in our history, and it's important for us to honor that. People have their own dispositions. When we talk about tasawwuf, for example, the word is beautiful to my ears and my heart, but I know that many of our respected listeners, they might not like it. And that's because of things they've seen that are misrepresentations of it. But again, as Maulana Hujwairi said, Data Ganj Bakhsh, in his beautiful book, Kashf al-Mahjub,
Right.
he says, tasawwuf, or Sufism, was a reality that had no name, meaning that this is the reality of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the reality of the Sahaba and of the Salaf al-Salih, of the companions and the successors and successors of the successors. They were all people of the heart.
Doctor, I'm sorry, I have to interrupt
But then
you
he
because
said-
I have to go for
Okay.
break. When I'll come,
We'll come back to this.
then we'll discuss this Data Ganj
Inshallah.
Bakhsh teachings.
Inshallah.
Inshallah Ta'ala. नाज़रीन किराम, आप देख रहे हैं कितनी खूबसूरत गुफ्तगू ये फरमा रहे हैं। और जैसे होता है ना कि एक औरा होता है नूरानी और एक वजूद से हमें कुछ सी शुआएँ निकलती हुई नज़र आती हैं, ये लोग वो हैं जब दायरा इस्लाम में दाखिल होते हैं तो इनकी हालत ही होती है जैसे एक मासूम बच्चा माँ के पेट से पैदा होता है। आप इनके चेहरे के नूर देख रहे हैं, ये रसूलुल्लाह सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि वसल्लम। मैंने इनको अभी सैयदना अब्दुल कादिर जिलानी की बातें इनसे सुनेंगे, जब मैंने कहा तो इन्होंने कहा आई एम हिज स्लेव, मैं उनका अदना ग़ुलाम हूँ। ये जब औलियाए किराम अल्लाह के बंदों के ग़ुलाम बन जाते हैं ना, फिर अल्लाह ताला इनको बड़ी अज़मतें और रिफ़तें अता करता है। आज इस अजीम शख्सियत से हमारी गुफ्तगू बहुत बड़े जो हिस्टोरियन थे उसने कहा था कि इस्लाम डज पोजेस ए ब्रदरहुड विच इज़ यूनिफाइंग फैक्टर अमिड द क्लैशेस ऑफ कलर, रेस, नेशनलिटी एंड क्लास। और नाज़रीन इकराम, वो जो किसी ने कहा था ना कि ये जो सूफियाए किराम होते हैं इनकी तबलीग ये होती है कि तैबा से मंगाई जाती है, सीनों में छुपाई जाती है, तौहीद की मैं सागर से नहीं नज़रों से पिलाई जाती है। और कोई अंदाज़ा कर सकता है उसके ज़ोरे बाजू का, निगाह मर्द मोमिन से बदल जाती हैं तकदीरें। सो सूफीज़, औलियाए किराम चेंज द पीपल, जस्ट whoever comes across, sit with them, talk with them, just a moment he is changed. So you were talking about Data Ganj Bakhsh.
Maulana Hujwairi, Data Ganj Bakhsh, his book Kashf al-Mahjoob, as you know, is one of the great classics of Islam, one of the early books also of what we call Sufi literature. And he says in that book that Sufism was a reality that had no name. As we said, it was the reality of the Prophet. So he worshipped God as if he could see him, and of the Sahaba, and of the Tabi'een and Atba'a Tabi'een, and of the Imams. Abu Hanifa had a sheikh, that is Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. Imam Malik had two sheikhs, Imam Muhammad al-Baqir and Ja'far al-Sadiq. Imam al-Shafi'i had Ma'ruf, he had Shayban al-Ra'i, and he had Sayyid al-Nafisa. She's his sheikh. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal has Shayban al-Ra'i and Ma'ruf al-Karkhi. They have to have sheikhs so that the Sharia is fulfilled. But Al-Hujwairi, God be pleased with him, he said, then it became a name without a reality. The greatest critics of Sufism are the Sufi masters. Right. Because just as if I'm sick, I have to have a doctor, I want a doctor who's qualified. I don't want a quack. So in fiqh, you have fuqaha who are sincere, who we call fuqaha of the hereafter, fuqaha al-akhirah.
Right.
And you have others that are not sincere. And you have also the same thing in every other science.
Right.
But in tasawwuf also we have to be very careful that we take the authentic...
Don't go to quacks. Don't go to quacks.
Don't go to a quack, because...
You have to go to the person who are authority.
Yes, I believe that the spiritual master is the best person on earth if he is genuine, if he is authentic.
Subhanallah.
If he is a person who is a charlatan and a fraud, he is so traumatic and abusive that I would regard him to be one of the worst people.
Right.
Because the best, if they're not the best, they become the worst. So
and the real Sufi is, if he takes your hand and just connect you with the Almighty Allah and in the darbar of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
The purpose of Sufism is very simple. It is to worship God as if you could see Him.
Wow,
For although you do not see Him, He sees you.
Subhanallah.
It is not to have miracles or not to have followers or to be a king on earth, but it is to bring people to the knowledge of God.
Doctor, you belong to Sufi order, Qadriya Sufi order. What are the characteristics of this order especially, and the teachings of Sayyidina Abdul Qadir Jilani?
As you indicated before the break, I love Shaykh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. He's the light of my life after the Blessed Prophet ﷺ, and after the Sahaba.
Subhanallah. Subhanallah.
But the Qadiri path is the most widespread in the world. It's the first and the oldest. It's in every single Muslim country. And in most of those countries, it's been there from the time of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani or close to that time. I went to China, for example, and we were welcomed by thousands of Qadiris.
Subhanallah.
Now, so they're everywhere.
In China?
In China, in Africa, in Europe, wherever they're. And of course, there are other paths as well, like the Naqshbandis and the Chishtis and the Suhrawardis and so many others. And we love all of them. That's why I don't like to ever emphasize Qadiri path in a way that would make a Naqshbandi feel bad or a Chishti feel left out. We love them all if they are sincere.
Right.
And if they are following the Sharia. You don't have Haqiqah without Sharia.
Yeah.
And you don't have Sharia without Haqiqah. This is why Imam Abu Hanifa and Imam Malik and Imam Shafi'i and Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, they have sheikhs. Abu Hanifa, may God be pleased with him, who was al-Imam al-A'zam. He says, if it were not for 2 years, لَهَلَكَ النُّعْمَانِ, then al-Nu'man, who is Abu Hanifa, would have been destroyed if it weren't for 2 special years. And those are the 2 years he spent with Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq. May God be pleased with them all. Imam Abu Hanifa in the Burj, in the tower of Sharia, he reached the top. And then he sees the tower of Haqiqah. Because the Sharia leads to the Haqiqah, but between it is an ocean. And so Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq, he gives him the bridge that takes him from this one to that one. And this is why he becomes the great Imam.
Doctor, do you feel that all Sufi silsilas take you to a final destination? And that is the shrine of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then to the God?
Let's say to the heart of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam.
Right.
To his heart.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And let's not talk about outward things. The Prophet is the most beautiful, the most majestic, the most perfect of anything in creation.
Subhanallah.
God did not create anything, not an angel, not the throne of God, which is the biggest thing God created, that is more beautiful than Al-Mustafa sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And we say that he's more beautiful than Joseph. Yusuf alayhi salam was extremely beautiful, but his beauty was of such a nature that you would stare at him. That's why the women cut their fingers, because they can't stop looking at him. Whereas the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, most men could not stare at him, because he has Jamal and Jalal.
Both.
He has beauty and majesty, so his Sahaba would look at him and lower their eyes. Then they have to look back, and then they have to lower their eyes. The people who could look at him all the time were children. And no one loved him more than children.
Subhanallah, subhanallah.
Or let's say the Sahaba loved him with the love of a child, and of a man and a woman as well.
Now, coming again to the Silsila Qadriya teachings. What are the teachings of Silsila Qadriya?
Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani lived about 900 years ago.
Right.
And he is the greatest reformer in history after the Prophet ﷺ and the Sahaba al-Kiram, and especially the Khulafa al-Rashidin.
Right.
When Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani appears, this is the beginning of the Crusades. And these crusades were not just in the Middle East, they were also in Spain and Portugal. The city of Toledo falls when Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani is a youth. And he will be the person who is the Sheikh of Imad al-Din Zangi, Noor al-Din Zangi, Shirku, and Salah al-Din. He is the one who will raise Salah al-Din.
Oh, great.
He is the one who told Salah al-Din what he would have to do in his life.
Salahuddin Ayyubi.
Ayyubi. You know, he is the disciple of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. And the jihad movement is essentially the product of Sheikh Abdul Qadir al-Jilani. And Sheikh
that was the reason, doctor, that when the Crusaders entered Baitul Maqdis, they massacred the people in 10,000.
This is about
10,099. 10,099. Dozy and all historian wrote that they massacred general public. But when Salahuddin entered, not a single body was killed.
And in fact, the Mujahids many of them, if not most of them, were disciples of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani. So they said they were lions on the battlefield and they were shepherds off the field. They did not harm people. They were not terrorists. They were not extremists. They were men. They were people of courage. And Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani was Shaykh al-Islam. He mastered all the outward sciences. He mastered the Quran in all of its recitations, the Arabic language, hadith, fiqh. He was a mufti, and he gave beautiful fatwas. No scholar in his time regarded himself to be greater than Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani. So he also disciplined the ulama.
But Shaykh, when he says that I see the whole world as it is on my hand, palm of my hand, have you gone through? Nazartu ila biladillahi jaman ka khardalatin ala hukmi ittisali.
We say of Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani, and this is something the awliya said before him. Even Sayyida Nafisa, who lives in the days of Imam al-Shafi'i, she told us about Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani. Her father, Shaykh Hassan al-Anwar, he also tells us hundreds of years before about Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani. So he was a truly great man. And we call him Ghawth al-Samawati wal-Ard. We call him Ghaus Pak, Pire Dastegir. And these people are one of the secrets of God. The Prophet ﷺ told us about the Qutb, he told us about the Abdal, and we will find in Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal and elsewhere references to the Abdal. Often these hadith may not be as sahih as others, but this is a teaching of the Prophet also, that there are great awliya, and they play a very important part in the goodness of the world.
What about Khizr? And what about the Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam, Asib bin Barkhiyah? He was one of the awliya.
Yeah, so Al-Khidr is, our scholars have different opinions.
Right.
Some say he was a messenger, some say he was a prophet, some say he was a wali. And in terms of Aqidah, we can't say.
But Asib bin Barkhiyah was certainly a wali. He was not a.
Yes, that's true. But even with Al-Khidr is very important, because whatever he was, you see in him the Shaykh-Murid relationship, which you also have between Gabriel and the Prophet. Right. And you have between the Prophet and his Sahaba, and between the Sahaba and the Tabi'een. We have to have guides. Right. But in the case of Al-Khidr, we have many, many wisdoms and truth. And of course, Asif, who you're referring to, he was the greatest wali in the days of Solomon. And he's the one, and Solomon said, who can bring me the throne of Sheba? And of course, the Ifrit of the jinn, who's a very knowledgeable jinn, very powerful. He said, I can bring it to you. Just give me 30 minutes. Give me an hour. Don't get up. I'll bring it to you. And then Asif said, I can bring it to you before you blink your eyes. And there it is. And our scholars have said, we believe in Aqidah that God...
How it happened, doctor?
We are told that in Aqidah we believe that God creates the world from nothing at every moment. God is always... كُلَّ يَوْمٍ هُوَ فِي شَأْنٍ. At every moment. And yawm here means moment. As well as day.
Oh, I see.
But at every moment, God is doing something spectacular.
Right.
And so this is one of
إِنَّهُ
عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٌ. He has power over all things. What our scholars tell us is that God did not transport the throne. He simply did not recreate it in the Yemen. He recreated it in Jerusalem in the court of Sulaiman. So there it was, just like that, in the fraction of a second. Right. This, of course, shows us also the power of the awliya who have no power, but God loves them and He answers their prayers. This is also why they're important to us. I'm a sinful man. If I make dua on my own, God will answer me. But if someone like a great wali of Allah makes dua, God may answer just like that.
Right. Sheikh, Dr. Silsila, to join a silsila or to have a bath is important? Is it necessary?
To have a silsila, to have a sanad, to have an ijazah, this is our deen. And this is our deen in fiqh, in Quran, in hadith, and of course in everything. But for the people of the spiritual path, the silsila is very special and very important. If I cut my silsila, I am nothing. My silsila is not just a piece of paper. My silsila requires me, first of all, to be true to its meaning, which is service and love.
Right.
And then also it means that I must not regard myself to be better than any of the awliya. So therefore, although I love Shaykh Abdul Qadir Jilani, and I love his path, I must love all of the awliya.
Baha'uddin, respect all of them. And must respect all of them.
You must respect all of them, because if I do not respect Baha'uddin Naqshband, or Mawlana Mu'inuddin Chishti, or As-Suhrawardi, or others, then I cut my own silsila. Because for my silsila to work properly, I have to love them all, and I have to honor them all. As God says in the Hadith Qudsi, Man aada li waliyan faqad adhantuhu bil harb, that whoever offends one of my awliya, I have declared war against. And if I don't honor Baha'uddin Naqshband, for example.
Doctor, I'm grateful what you are saying. If you disrespect a wali, then Allah says that I am at war with you. What about when some people, unfortunately in the West, vilify the Holy Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What's your opinion? Then it's the biggest war. It's the universal war with God.
That is a good question. You remember that the mushrikeen in Mecca would refer to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam as mudhammam, as he who is not praiseworthy, who's blameworthy. And the Prophet would laugh jovially and say, they're cursing someone else. I'm not mudhammam, I am Muhammad, the praiseworthy one. So every evil in the earth goes back to some heart. It goes back to some evil heart. The people truly to be blamed here are the propagandists who tell the lies. And the Prophet is so beautiful, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that if you tell his story honestly, then you're going to have people convert to Islam. Islam goes nowhere in the world and has never gone anywhere in the world, but that it spread in that place, whether it was among Taoists or Confucianists or Hindus or Buddhists, but they have to come to know what is Islam, who was the Prophet. So the propagandist will lie to us. They don't tell us about Muhammad, they tell us about Mudhammam. And therefore it's important for us to bring the true picture of the Prophet. And often hatred, like a coin that has two sides, can be flipped to love. It's one of the ironies. My people have been frightened by Islam, and the propagandists play a big role in that. And this has been going on in the West for over 1,000 years.
Yes.
Because this was the main way they could stop people from embracing Islam, was to tell lies about it.
Right. Doctor, tell me, if today a preacher goes like you, how we should spread the message of Islam among the West? What do you suggest? Is it a character of a person who's going there? Or is it his speaking power, or is it the books which would matter?
It's a very big task. And we're up against huge odds. And think tanks in my own country that spend billions of dollars in distorting the truth of Islam. So we have to be very intelligent. We have to use every aspect of media. One of the interesting things about media is that one of the principles of media is that if you do not use all forms of media, including WhatsApp and Twitter and YouTube and of course television and other things, then your message will not reach effectively.
Right.
And so this is what our enemies do. They use everything. Right. And we have to also use everything bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. And what has been set wrong by action cannot be set right by words. So we have to also do things that are proactive and very beneficial. Right. And we can't just be reacting to a bad scenario.
Right. Doctor, what do you see the future of Islam? Blended with the love, the Islam blended with the tasawwuf.
I came into Islam. I came into Islam by God's grace with great conviction. And you called it a moment of transformation. It was that. I began to see even my face change in the mirror, especially in the first month of Ramadan. It's like, are you that same person? So I never doubted ever that this religion is the truth. God showed me that. And that it is the future. Malcolm X, who, as you know, is the one who brought me into Islam through his autobiography, one of the things he says is that racism is a cancer eating away at our society. It still is at this day.
Yeah.
And he said the only thing that can solve it is Islam. So
you must have gone through Toynbee. I have read him.
Thank you.
Toynbee once wrote in his book, History, Short History of the World, that there are two menaces which the Europe is facing, and Islam has the solution. The first thing is racism, and the second is alcoholism.
MashaAllah.
And Islam can solve both these problems.
Yeah. I love Toynbee. And Toynbee has been one of the important influences on me in my life. Toynbee understood that Islam today is what the world needs, especially because it can bring the whole human family together. And no religion in history has been able to bring not just Muslims together, but Jews and Christians and everybody else. Europeans would be shocked to hear that today.
Right.
Like, what? You know, we appear to be the most culturally predatory people on earth, but historically, we are the people that brings the whole human family together, no matter what their ethnic background is. So one of the things that Toynbee said is Muslims have everything, Islam has everything the world needs. The problem is the Muslims. Yeah. Because they are not up to the task.
Yes, Doctor, thank you very much for these valuable discussions. Our viewers are very happy. They must be very happy to listen to you. But at the end, I would just say one word. Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, the Holy Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, is the mercy for the universe. Unless the whole humanity goes to his door, they cannot get the mercy. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is it true?
Well, again, you are right. He is a mercy even to rocks and minerals. Oh. He is a mercy to trees and to animals.
Subhanallah.
He is a mercy to the water and to all human beings.
Subhanallah.
But we have to be that too.
We have to.
And when we become a mercy to all the worlds and we begin to solve problems like racism, that no one else can solve.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saab. Nazreen Ikram, Dr. Umar Farooq Abdullah की आपने खूबसूरत मोहब्बत भरी बातें सुनी और एक सूफ़ी का जो अंदाज़ होता है वो एक शबनमी अंदाज़ होता है. आदमी को पता नहीं चलता वो तेज़ बारिश या औलों की तरह नहीं गिरता, वो शबनम की तरह गिरता है. वो दिलों के अंदर बात जैसे मैंने पहले कहा था वो बस दिलों के अंदर चलती है. ये खुशबू जो है ये आदमी के कानों के रास्ते दिल में उतर जाती है. नाज़रीन किराम, किताब शिफा से नुस्खे का वक्त हो गया. फालिज का रूहानी इलाज. नमाज इशराक के बाद 41 दिन तक सूरत शम्स पारा नंबर 30 की तलावत करके फालिज ज़दा मरीज़ को पिला दें. इंशाअल्लाह शफा नसीब होगी. शर्त ये अव्वल आखिर 11-11 मरतबा कोई भी दुरूद पाक जो आता हो वो पढ़ें. खलीफा चारम सैयद अली मुर्तज़ा शेर खुदा فرماتے ہیں جو شخص اللہ تعالیٰ کو یاد رکھتا ہے اللہ تعالیٰ اس کے دل کو زندہ اور اس کی عقل کو روشن کرتا ہے۔ ناظرین کرام، اللہ تعالیٰ سے دعا ہے وہ ہمیں حضور رحمت عالمین صلی اللہ علیہ وسلم کی غیر مشروط محبت، لامحدود وفاداری نصیب فرمائے۔ اور پاکستان کا مطلب کیا، لا الہ الا، آج میں اکیلا نعرہ لگاؤں گا، چونکہ شیخ کو اس کا پتہ نہیں اردو میں، جب میں لگاؤں گا آج میرے ناظرین اور سامعین میرے ساتھ زوردار نعرہ لگا دیں، پاکستان کا مطلب کیا، لا الہ الا اللہ محمد